My name is Lena Harper. I'm 29 years old, and 3 weeks ago, my mom told my grandmother that I had disowned her. Except, I hadn't. I didn't even know it had happened, not until my grandmother called me, her voice trembling in a way I had never heard before, and said something that completely shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Something that made me realize this wasn't just a misunderstanding, this was deliberate. And by the time I uncovered the truth, it was already too late to pretend we were still a normal family. But before I tell you what she said, do me a quick favor. If you're into real-life drama stories like this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. I read every single one, and it honestly means more than you think. Okay, let me take you back, because none of this made sense until I started connecting the dots. And when I finally did, I wished I hadn't. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew your name, your parents' names, and probably your business too. We weren't rich, not even close, but we weren't struggling either, just comfortable. My dad worked in construction, long hours, rough hands, quiet personality. My mom, Denise, was different. She was the kind of person who filled a room the second she walked into it, loud, charming, opinionated. People loved her, at least on the surface. Growing up, I thought she was amazing. She always knew what to say, always knew how to make people laugh. And when I was little, she made me feel like I was the most important person in the world, until I wasn't. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't a single moment where everything changed. It was slower than that. Subtle. Like a shift you don't notice until you look back years later. I think the first time I really felt it, I was about 13. I had just gotten my report card. Straight A's. I remember being so excited. I ran into the kitchen, practically bouncing. Mom! Look. She was on the phone, laughing. I stood there holding the paper, waiting. She glanced at me, held up one finger. Wait. So I waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Eventually, I just set the report card on the counter and walked away. She never mentioned it. Not that day. Not the next. Not ever. It sounds small, I know. But moments like that, they stack. And over time, you start to realize something. You're only important when it's convenient. By the time I graduated high school, things between me and my mom were complicated. Not bad enough to call it toxic, but not good enough to feel safe either. It was like walking on eggshells. You never knew which version of her you were going to get. The loving mom, or the one who made you feel like a burden for even existing. My dad stayed out of it. He always did. If there was tension, he'd just disappear into the garage, or suddenly need to run errands. Avoidance was his coping mechanism. I didn't blame him, but it also meant I was alone in it. The one person who never made me feel that way was my grandma, my dad's mom, Margaret Harper. But I just called her Nana. She lived about 20 minutes away, in this little white house with blue shutters and a garden she took way too seriously. And she loved me. Not conditionally, not when it was convenient. Just loved me. Every Sunday, without fail, I'd go over there. We'd bake, talk, sometimes just sit in silence drinking tea, and it was the only place I felt like I could breathe. Nana never raised her voice, never made me feel small. If anything, she did the opposite. She saw me. Even when no one else did. My mom didn't like that. Not openly. She'd never say it outright, but you could feel it. Little comments. Oh, you're going to your grandmother's again. Or, must be nice having all that free time. Or, my personal favorite, well, I guess I'm just not as interesting. Always said with a smile, but never really a joke. At the time, I brushed it off. I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was being sensitive. That's what she always said, after all. You take things too personally, Lena. You always twist my words. You're too emotional. So I learned to second-guess myself, to question my own reactions, to wonder if maybe I was the problem. After college, I moved to Chicago, got a job in marketing, built a life. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And for the first time, I had space. Distance from the constant tension, distance from my mom. We still talked. Mostly surface level stuff, work, weather, occasional family updates, but nothing deep, nothing real. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Nana and I stayed close, though. We talked every week, sometimes more. I'd visit whenever I could. And every time I did, she'd hug me like she hadn't seen me in years. Don't let the world harden you, she'd always say. I never really understood what she meant. Not fully. Not until recently. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday. It was late. I had just gotten home from work, kicked off my shoes, collapsed onto the couch. My phone buzzed. Nana. That wasn't unusual. But something about it felt off. I answered. Hey, Nana, Lena. Her voice stopped me cold. It was shaky, small, nothing like the steady, warm tone I was used to. Are you okay? I asked immediately. There was a pause, a long one, and then she said it. I didn't think you'd do something like that. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Another pause, longer this time, like she was choosing her words carefully, or maybe struggling to believe them herself. Your mother said you don't want anything to do with me anymore. I sat up so fast, I nearly dropped my phone. What? She said you told her you were done, that you didn't want me in your life, that you asked her to pass the message along because you didn't want to have the conversation yourself. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My mind just blanked. What? Nana, that's not true. I never said that. I would never. I know. Her voice cracked slightly, and that scared me more than anything, because Nana didn't get emotional easily. But then she added something that made my chest tighten. But she sounded so convincing, Lena. Silence filled the space between us. Heavy, uncomfortable. Why would she say that? Nana whispered. And that was the question, wasn't it? Why? Why would my mom tell her something like that? Something so specific, so cruel. I don't know, I said quietly. But even as I said it, a small, uneasy feeling started forming in the back of my mind. Because this didn't feel random. This didn't feel like a misunderstanding. It felt intentional, calculated, like a move in a game I didn't even realize we were playing. Nana, I said firmly, I would never cut you off. Ever. You're the most important person in my life. I heard her take a shaky breath. I believe you. But she didn't sound completely convinced, and that broke something inside me. After we hung up, I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to make sense of it. My mom had always been difficult. But this was different. This wasn't a passive-aggressive comment or a guilt trip. This was a lie, a big one, and it involved someone I loved more than anything. My phone buzzed again. A text. From my mom. My chest tightened as I opened it. Call me when you get a chance. That was it. No explanation, no context, just that. I stared at the message for a long time, my heart pounding, because suddenly I had this overwhelming feeling that whatever was happening, it wasn't going to be simple. And it definitely wasn't going to be easy. I called her. Of course I did. It rang twice before she answered. Lena, I was just thinking about you. Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely normal. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just told my grandmother that I had disowned her. Mom, I said, my voice tight, why did you tell Nana I cut her off? There was a pause. Just a fraction of a second. But I caught it. And then she laughed. Actually laughed. Oh my God, is that what she told you? My grip on the phone tightened. What do you mean? Lena, honey, you're misunderstanding. I didn't say you disowned her. I said you've been busy and distant, and she took it the wrong way. That didn't sit right. At all. That's not what she said. Well, you know how your grandmother can be, she replied lightly. She tends to exaggerate. My stomach twisted. No, she didn't. Nana wasn't like that. She never had been. Mom, I said slowly. She told me you said I didn't want anything to do with her anymore. Another pause. Longer this time. And when she spoke again, her tone had shifted, just slightly, enough for me to notice. Well, she said, you haven't exactly been making an effort, Lena. There it was, that familiar twist, the one that made everything somehow my fault. I call her every week. Do you? She replied. Because from where I'm standing, it doesn't seem like it. I felt that old frustration rising. The one I thought I had left behind when I moved away. I literally talked to her 3 days ago. Okay, and before that, I opened my mouth, then closed it. Because suddenly I realized something. This wasn't about facts. This wasn't about truth. This was about control. And my mom was rewriting the narrative in real time. Well, she continued, if she feels hurt, maybe you should ask yourself why. I felt my chest tighten. Because somehow she had turned this around, made me question myself, again. But this time, something felt different. Something didn't sit right because Nana had sounded genuinely confused. Hurt, not dramatic, not exaggerating, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't immediately assume I was the one in the wrong. Mom, I said carefully, what exactly did you tell her? Silence, then a sigh, like I was being difficult. Lena, I don't have the energy for this right now. I was just trying to explain why you've been distant. If she misunderstood, that's not my fault. That was it. That was all she was going to say. And somehow, it felt like there was a whole lot more she wasn't telling me. I have to go, she added quickly. We'll talk later. And then she hung up. Just like that. Leaving me sitting there, phone still in my hand, heart racing, mind spinning, because now I wasn't just confused. I was suspicious. And I had a feeling this was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed the conversation. With Nana. With my mom. Trying to find the truth somewhere in between. But the more I thought about it, the more it didn't add up. And deep down, I had this growing, uncomfortable feeling that my mom wasn't just misunderstanding things. She was creating them, and I had no idea why. Or how far she was willing to go. The next morning, I woke up to another message. This one from my cousin Rachel. Hey, are you okay? My stomach dropped. Because suddenly, it wasn't just between me, my mom, and my grandma anymore. Something was spreading, and I was the last one to know. I stared at the message, heart pounding, realizing one terrifying thing. Whatever story my mom had told, it hadn't stopped with Nana, and that meant this was bigger than I thought. Much bigger, and I was already behind. I didn't respond to Rachel right away. I just stared at her message. Hey, are you okay? 3 simple words, but they carried weight. The kind of weight that told me something had already been said, something that painted me in a way I didn't recognize. My fingers hovered over the screen. What was I even supposed to say? No, I'm not okay, because apparently I've been disowning people without realizing it. I let out a shaky breath and typed back. What do you mean? The typing bubble appeared almost instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again, like she was trying to figure out how much to say. Finally, Etik, my mom mentioned something weird last night about you and Aunt Denise and Nana. Just wanted to check in. My chest tightened, so it was already spreading. Not just a one-off lie, not just a misunderstanding, a narrative, and my mom was building it, carefully, quietly, piece by piece. I'm fine, I typed back, even though it wasn't true. Just some confusion, I'll call you later. I didn't want to explain it over text. Honestly, I didn't even fully understand it myself yet, but one thing was clear. I needed more information, and I wasn't going to get it from my mom. Work that day felt unreal, like I was moving through someone else's life. Emails, meetings, deadlines. None of it stuck. My brain kept circling back to the same question. Why would she do this? Not just lie, but lie about something so specific, so personal. And to Nana of all people, it didn't make sense. Unless it wasn't about Nana. Unless Nana was just part of something bigger. That thought made Miss Stomach turn. Because if that was true, then what exactly was my mom trying to accomplish? That evening, I called Rachel. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, her voice cautious. "Hey, so what did your mom say exactly?" There was a pause. "Well, she said that Aunt Denise told her you and Nana had a falling out, that things got ugly." My heart dropped. "Ugly how?" "She didn't go into a ton of detail," Rachel said, "but she made it sound like Nana crossed a boundary or something, and you decided to cut ties." I closed my eyes. This was worse than I thought. Way worse. Because now it wasn't just distance. It wasn't just miscommunication. It was a full-blown story. With motives. With blame. With me as the one who walked away. "That's not true," I said firmly. "None of it is." "I figured," Rachel said quickly. "That's why I reached out. It didn't sound like you." Relief flickered through me. At least someone still saw me clearly. "Did she say anything else?" I asked. "Just that your mom was really hurt and trying to hold the family together." I almost laughed, but it came out hollow. Of course she positioned herself as the victim. That was her specialty. "I don't understand why she'd say this," Rachel added. "It's weird." Weird. That was one way to put it. Calculated felt more accurate. "I think there's more going on," I said quietly. "Yeah," Rachel agreed. "It feels like it." We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. "You should probably talk to Nana again." "I will. And maybe careful with your mom." A chill ran through me. Because Rachel wasn't dramatic. She didn't jump to conclusions. If she was saying that, it meant she saw it too. Something wasn't right. That night, I called Nana again. She sounded a little better, but not like herself. There was a hesitation in her voice now, a distance that hadn't been there before, like a small crack had formed. And even though she said she believed me, part of her was still unsure. "I've been thinking about what your mother said," she admitted. I swallowed hard. "What exactly did she tell you, Nana? I need to understand." There was a long pause. Then she said, slowly, "She told me you felt I had been overstepping, that I was too involved in your life, that you needed space." My chest tightened. "I never said that." "I know," she said softly. "But she was very specific, Lena. She said you felt guilty saying it directly, so you asked her to pass it along." I felt sick. Because that wasn't just a why. That was detailed, intentional, crafted. "She also said," Nana continued, her voice trembling slightly, "that you might not be coming around anymore, that it would be best if I respected your decision." I pressed my hand against my forehead, trying to process it, trying to understand how my mom could say something like that with such confidence. "I would never do that to you," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "Never." "I want to believe that," Nana whispered. That hurt, more than anything else. Not anger, not confusion, but that tiny crack of doubt. And I realized something in that moment. That was the real damage, not just the lie itself, but the seed it planted, the uncertainty, the question. After we hung up, I sat in silence. My apartment felt too quiet, too still, like something had shifted and I couldn't shift it back. And then a thought hit me. Sharp. Uncomfortable. What if this wasn't the first time? What if this was just the first time I noticed? The next few days, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. To conversations. To reactions. To little things that didn't quite add up. And once I started looking, I couldn't stop seeing it. It started with my aunt. She called me out of nowhere. "Lena, sweetheart," she said warmly. "How are you holding up?" That phrasing again, holding up. Like something had happened. "I'm okay," I said cautiously. "Why?" "Oh, family stuff. Your mom mentioned things have been tense. tense. That was new. I didn't realize there was tension, I said carefully. There was a pause. Oh well, maybe I misunderstood, but her tone said otherwise. And suddenly I felt like I was walking into conversations halfway through. Like everyone else had been given a script, and I hadn't. Then there was my dad. I called him later that week, hoping, maybe stupidly, that he'd clear things up. Hey, kiddo, he said, sounding tired. Hey, Dad. Can I ask you something? Sure. Has Mom said anything to you about me and Nana? There was a pause. Too long. Not really, he said eventually. My stomach sank. Dad. Another pause. Then a sigh. She mentioned you've been pulling away. I closed my eyes. Did she say I disowned Nana? No, he said quickly. Not like that. Just that things weren't good. I let out a slow breath. Even here, even with him, the story had been softened, adjusted. Just enough to sound believable. Just enough to avoid sounding cruel. She's worried about you, he added. Of course she was. Always worried. Always concerned. Always the one trying to help. I'm fine, Dad, I said quietly. I know, he replied. You know how your mom gets. Yeah, I did. And for the first time, I wasn't making excuses for it. The more I looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't random. This wasn't a one-time lie. This was a pattern. Subtle, strategic, and terrifyingly effective. Because no one saw the full picture. They only saw the version she gave them. And each version was just different enough to keep everyone from comparing notes. By the end of the week, I felt like I was unraveling, not because I didn't know the truth, but because I didn't know how far the lie had spread, or how many people believed it, and worst of all, I didn't know why. That question kept me up at night. Why? What was the end goal? What did she gain from this? Attention, control, sympathy, or something else entirely? Something I hadn't figured out yet. The answer came sooner than I expected, and it came from the last person I thought would say it. Sunday afternoon. I was on the phone with Nana again. We were talking about normal things, recipes, weather, trying to rebuild some sense of normalcy, when she said it, casually, like it was just a passing comment. Your mother mentioned you might not be coming home for Thanksgiving this year? I froze. What? She said you were making other plans, that you wanted some distance from the family? My heart started pounding. I never said that. Oh, Nana said softly. I thought it was strange. I stood up, pacing the room, because suddenly, everything clicked. This wasn't just about Nana. This wasn't just about one lie. This was about isolation. Piece by piece. Conversation by conversation. She was creating distance between me and everyone else, making it seem like I was the one pulling away, so that when I eventually did, it would look like my choice, not hers. I stopped pacing, my hands shaking, because for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't emotional. This was calculated. And if I didn't do something soon, I was going to lose more than just my relationship with Nana. I was going to lose my entire family. That night, I sat on my couch, phone in my hand, staring at my mom's contact, my heart pounding, because I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't ignore this anymore. I couldn't brush it off. I couldn't pretend it would fix itself. But confronting her, that was a different story. Because if I was right, if this was intentional, then I wasn't just dealing with a misunderstanding. I was dealing with someone who was willing to rewrite reality, to get what she wanted. And I had no idea what that was yet. But I was about to find out. I hit call. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then she answered. Lena! Hi, sweetheart. Bright, warm, perfectly normal. Like always. But this time, I wasn't buying it. Mom, I said, my voice steady. We need to talk. There was a pause. And for the first time, I thought I heard something crack beneath the surface. Something subtle. Something real. About what? She asked. And that's when I realized she already knew. I didn't answer her question right away. I just listened. To the silence on the other end of the phone. To the faint background noise, TV maybe, or the clinking of dishes. Normal sounds. Ordinary. Like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been quietly dismantling my relationships piece by piece. Lena, she said again, softer this time. What's going on? I swallowed. My throat felt dry. We need to talk about what you've been telling people. Another pause. Short. Controlled. I don't know what you mean, she said. Of course she didn't. That was her first move. Deny. Always deny. You told Nana I disowned her. I already explained that you told Rachel's mom that we had a falling out. I never said that exactly. You told Nana I'm not coming home for Thanksgiving. Silence. And this time, it stretched longer. Too long. Long enough for the truth to settle between us. I think you're blowing this out of proportion, she finally said. Her voice had changed. Not sharp. Not angry, but colder. Measured. Careful. I'm repeating what I've heard from multiple people, I said. And it all traces back to you. That's not fair, she replied quickly. I've been trying to help. Help. The word hit me like a slap. By telling people I'm cutting them off? I never said that, she snapped. There it was. A crack. A glimpse of something underneath. I've been trying to explain your behavior, Lena. You've been distant. You've been cold. People are noticing. My chest tightened. I call Nana every week. And yet she feels abandoned, my mom shot back. So clearly something isn't working. I closed my eyes. There it was again. That twist. That shift. Where the problem somehow became me. I don't understand why you're doing this, I said quietly. I'm not doing anything, she said, her voice suddenly soft again. I'm trying to hold this family together while you're pulling away. That sentence lingered. Heavy, manipulative. Because on the surface, it sounded reasonable. Caring. But underneath, it painted me as the problem, the one causing distance, the one creating tension, and suddenly I realized something terrifying. If I didn't know the truth, if I hadn't talked to Nana directly, I might have believed her. I'm not pulling away, I said, my voice firmer now. You're telling people I am. I'm telling people what I see. No, I said. You're telling people a story. Silence. Then a soft, almost amused exhale. You always were dramatic. That one stung. Not because it was new, but because it was familiar. Too familiar. The way she dismissed me, reduced everything I said to emotion, to exaggeration, to overreaction. I'm not being dramatic, I said, my hands starting to shake. I'm asking you to stop lying. I'm not lying, she said calmly. And that calmness, that unwavering confidence, it made me question myself for half a second. Just a flicker, but enough, because that's all it ever took. You told Nana I didn't want her in my life. I told her you needed space. I never said that. Well, maybe you didn't use those exact words, she replied, but it's what your actions are showing. I let out a sharp breath, because there it was again, the rewriting, the reinterpretation, the way she took reality and bent it. Just enough to make her version believable. You don't get to decide what my actions mean, I said. I'm your mother, she replied. Of course I do. The words hung in the air. Heavy, final, like that settled it. And for a moment, I felt like I was 13 again, standing in the kitchen with my report card, waiting to be seen, and realizing I wasn't. I need you to stop, I said quietly. Stop what? Stop speaking for me. Stop telling people things I didn't say. I'm not doing that. You are. No, Lena, she said, her voice tightening. You're just uncomfortable with the truth. My heart started pounding, because suddenly, this wasn't just about Nana anymore. This was bigger. She wasn't just spreading a lie. She was building a reality where I was the problem, where my reactions were the issue, where my relationships were failing because of me. I'm not going to argue with you, she continued. If you want to fix things, maybe start by showing up for your family instead of accusing me. And just like that, she flipped it completely. I was the one attacking her. I was the one creating conflict. I was the one who needed to fix things. I felt my chest tighten, my thoughts scrambling, because part of me, a small, conditioned part of me, still wanted to believe her. Still wanted to think maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was misinterpreting things. Maybe. No. I stopped myself. Because I had evidence. I had conversations. I had Nana's voice in my head. Shaky. Confused. Hurt. That wasn't imagination. That was real. I'm going to talk to people directly, I said. The words came out before I could second guess them. There was a pause. Then, excuse me? I'm going to call everyone you've talked to and clear this up myself. Silence. And this time, it felt different. Heavier. Like something had shifted. You don't need to do that, she said quickly. Too quickly. I think I do. Lina, that's unnecessary. You'll just create more confusion. Or expose the truth. My pulse quickened. Because for the first time, she sounded nervous. Subtle. But there. I think the confusion is already there, I said. Another pause. Long. Tense. Then she sighed. Deep. Dramatic. Like she was the one dealing with something exhausting. I don't know why you're doing this, she said. I've been nothing but supportive of you. Supportive. The word felt hollow, twisted. I'm not doing anything, I replied. I'm just telling the truth. And what do you think I've been doing? I didn't answer. Because we both knew. We hung up not long after that. No resolution, no agreement, just tension. And something else. Something new. Because for the first time, I didn't feel small after talking to her. I felt certain. Unsettled. But certain. And that scared me almost as much as everything else. The next few days were a blur of phone calls, one by one. Carefully, cautiously, I reached out to family members, testing the waters, asking neutral questions, listening more than I spoke. And what I found made my stomach drop. The stories weren't identical, they weren't copy-pasted, but they all had the same core. I was distant. I was overwhelmed. I was pulling away. And my mom, she was just trying to help everyone understand. To my aunt, I was going through something. To my cousin, I was setting boundaries. To my dad, I was needing space. To Nana, I had practically cut her off. Each version slightly different, tailored, adjusted, but all pointing in the same direction. Me, as the problem. And the worst part? It worked. Not completely, not with everyone, but enough. Enough to create doubt. Enough to make people hesitate. Enough to make them wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was some truth to it. I started noticing it in conversations. The way people spoke to me. Careful. Measured. Like they were trying not to upset me. Like I was fragile. Or unpredictable. Or distant. And every time it happened, I felt this wave of frustration. Because I wanted to scream, I'm not the person she's making me out to be. But how do you prove that? How do you argue against something so subtle? So carefully constructed? By the end of the week, I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and more confused than ever. Because I had the truth. But she had the narrative. And the narrative was spreading faster than I could contain it. The breaking point came on Friday night. I was scrolling through social media, mindlessly, trying to distract myself, when I saw it. A post. From my aunt. A family photo. Old. From a Thanksgiving years ago. Everyone smiling, laughing. Together. The caption read, "Missing the days when everyone was close. Hoping things heal soon." My chest tightened, because I knew exactly what that meant, and the comments made it worse. Praying for your family. Some distance is necessary sometimes. Everything will work out, stay strong. They weren't tagging me. They weren't naming me. But I was there, in between the lines, in the assumptions, in the sympathy. I felt my hands start to shake. Because this wasn't private anymore. This wasn't contained. This was public, subtle, but public, and I had no control over it. I put my phone down, staring at the wall, heart racing, because in that moment, everything hit me at once. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a takeover of my relationships, of my identity, of how people saw me. And she was winning. I didn't cry, not right away. I just sat there, numb, processing, trying to figure out what to do, because whatever I had been doing, it wasn't enough. My phone buzzed, a message from Nana. I saw your aunt's post. Are you okay? That did it. That broke me. Because even Nana, even after everything, was still unsure, still questioning, still caught in the middle. Tears blurred my vision as I typed back. I'm so sorry, Nana. I don't know why she's doing this. The reply came a minute later, and what she said made my stomach drop. I think I do. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. What do you mean? There was a pause, longer than usual. Then she did something like this before. My breath caught. Before? When? I typed. Another pause, and then the message that changed everything. Years ago, with your father. I sat up, every nerve in my body suddenly on edge. What happened? The typing bubble appeared, stopped, started again. And finally, she almost made me believe he didn't want me in his life either. The room felt like it tilted, because suddenly, this wasn't new. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern, a history, a strategy, and I had never seen it, not until now. My phone slipped slightly in my hand, because one thought hit me. Hard. If she had done this before, if she had almost succeeded, then what else had she done that I didn't know about? And more importantly, what was she planning next? I didn't sleep that night, not even a little. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. Nana's words looping over and over in my head. She did something like this before. With my dad. The thought felt wrong, heavy, like a memory that wasn't mine but somehow should have been, because I had grown up believing my parents' marriage was normal, not perfect, but stable, quiet, predictable. Now, suddenly, I was questioning everything, every silence, every argument I didn't understand as a kid, every time my dad disappeared into the garage instead of engaging. What if that wasn't avoidance? What if that was survival? By morning, I felt hollow, like something inside me had shifted permanently. I made coffee I didn't drink, sat on the couch I didn't notice, and stared at my phone. I wanted to call Nana again, ask more questions, but I was afraid of the answers, afraid of how deep this went. Instead, I called Rachel. If anyone could help me think straight right now, it was her. She picked up on the first ring. Hey, you okay? Her voice was softer than usual, careful, like she already knew the answer. No, I admitted. There was no point pretending anymore. I think my mom has been doing this for years. A pause. What do you mean? I took a breath, then told her everything Nana had said, about my dad, about the past, about the possibility that this wasn't new, just hidden. When I finished, Rachel didn't respond right away, and that silence, it scared me. Rachel? I said. I'm here, she replied slowly. I'm just trying to process that. Yeah, I whispered. Same. Another pause. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. I think I've seen it too. I sat up. What? Not exactly like this, she said. But your mom has always been really good at controlling narratives. I swallowed hard. What do you mean? Well, Rachel continued, remember when Aunt Denise told everyone that Uncle Mark didn't come to Christmas because he was too busy? I frowned. Yeah, wasn't that true? Rachel hesitated. No. He told my mom he wasn't invited? My stomach dropped. What? Yeah, she said. Apparently there was some disagreement, and instead of telling people that, your mom just changed the story. I felt a chill run down my spine. Because suddenly, it all started connecting. Little things. Moments I had dismissed. Stories that never quite added up. But I never questioned them. Because why would I? She was my mom. She does this thing, Rachel continued carefully, where she doesn't lie outright, but she reshapes things. My chest tightened. That's exactly what this feels like. I know, Rachel said softly. And Lena, I think you need to be careful. That word again. Careful. Like I was dealing with something fragile. Or dangerous. Or both. I don't even know what to do, I admitted. I think you need to get ahead of it, she said. How? By controlling your own narrative. I let out a hollow laugh. She's already done that. Not completely, Rachel replied. You still have time, but you need to stop reacting and start documenting. That word stuck. Documenting. You mean like keeping track of what she says? Exactly. Conversations, messages, anything that shows a pattern. I hesitated, because part of me still didn't want to believe it had come to this. That I needed evidence, against my own mother. But another part of me, the part that had seen the damage already, knew she was right. Knew she was right. Okay, I said slowly. Okay, I can do that. And Lena? Yeah? You're not crazy. My throat tightened, because I hadn't said it out loud. But she knew. She knew that's exactly what I had been thinking. That's what this kind of behavior does, she continued. It makes you question yourself. Tears stung my eyes. Yeah. But you're not imagining it, she said firmly. This is real. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I know. And for the first time in days, I actually believed it. That conversation changed something. Not everything. I was still overwhelmed, still hurt, still trying to process it all, but I wasn't alone in it anymore, and that made a difference. Over the next few days, I started paying attention in a different way. Not just emotionally, but objectively. Like I was watching a pattern unfold. Instead of being caught inside it, I saved messages, screenshotted conversations, wrote down what people told me, dates, details, exact wording when I could remember it. At first, it felt wrong, like I was betraying something, but then I'd think about Nana, about that crack of doubt in her voice, and I'd keep going. And the more I documented, the clearer the pattern became. It wasn't random. It wasn't impulsive. It was strategic. My mom never said the same thing twice. Not exactly, she adjusted, adapted, tailored the story to the person she was talking to. With my aunt, she emphasized concern. With my cousin, she emphasized distance. With Nana, she emphasized rejection. Each version designed to get a specific reaction. Sympathy, understanding, hurt, and she always positioned herself the same way. The mediator, the victim, the one trying to hold things together. It was chilling, because it meant she wasn't just reacting, she was planning. By Thursday, I had pages of notes, dozens of screenshots, and a growing sense of something I hadn't felt before. Clarity. But clarity didn't make it hurt less. If anything, it made it worse, because now I understood it, and I couldn't unsee it. That night, I called Nana again. I've been thinking about what you said, I told her. About your mom, she asked gently. Yeah. There was a pause. I didn't want to tell you before, she admitted. I thought it was in the past. What happened? I asked. She sighed. It was years ago. You were still little. Your father and I had a disagreement about something small. At least, I thought it was small. I listened, my heart pounding. Then suddenly he stopped calling, stopped visiting. Months went by. That doesn't sound like Dad, I said. It wasn't, she agreed. That's why it hurt so much. My chest tightened. What happened? One day I ran into him at the grocery store, and I asked him why. My breath caught, and he looked at me like I was crazy, she said softly. He said I had stopped reaching out. A chill ran down my spine. He thought you were ignoring him? Yes. Silence filled the space between us. Heavy. Unsettling. And then we realized, she continued, your mother had been relaying messages. My stomach dropped. What kind of messages? She told me he needed space, that he was upset with me. And she told him that I was disappointed in him, that I didn't want to interfere in his life. My heart started racing. She created distance, I whispered. Yes, Nana said, and we both believed her. I pressed my hand against my mouth, because suddenly this wasn't just familiar, it was identical. Same pattern, same structure, same outcome. How did it end? I asked. We talked, she said, directly, and everything came out. And Mom? There was a pause. She said it was a misunderstanding. Of course she did. She always has an explanation, Nana added quietly. I let out a shaky breath. Because now, there was no doubt left. No confusion. No maybe. This was intentional. It always had been. Why would she do that? I asked. Nana didn't answer right away. And when she did, her voice was softer than I'd ever heard it. I think she likes to be needed. I frowned. What do you mean? When people are disconnected, Nana said. She becomes the bridge, the one everyone goes through. My chest tightened. Control. Influence. Importance. It all clicked. She creates the problem, so she can be the solution, I whispered. Yes. I sat there, stunned. Because it was so simple. And so disturbing. And Lena? Nana added. Yeah? You talking to me directly, that's what breaks it. I swallowed, because that made sense. Too much sense. If people compared notes, if they communicated without her in the middle, the whole thing would fall apart. And suddenly, I understood what I needed to do. After we hung up, I called Rachel. I know what she's doing, I said. I think we all do now, she replied. No, I said. I mean, I know how to stop it. There was a pause. Okay, I'm listening. I took a breath. I need everyone talking to each other directly, no middleman. Like a group conversation? Exactly. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then that could work. It has to, I said. Because right now, she controls the narrative. But if we all share what we've been told, it'll expose the inconsistencies, Rachel finished. Yes, and she won't be able to keep the stories straight. My heart started pounding. Because for the first time, this felt like a plan. Not just reaction, not just defense, but strategy. There's just one problem, Rachel said. What? You'll need everyone on board. I hesitated. Because she was right, and that wouldn't be easy. Not when doubt had already been planted. Not when people were unsure who to believe. I'll start with Nana, I said. And me, Rachel added. I smiled slightly. Yeah, and you. And Lena? Yeah? You might want to be ready for this to get messy. I let out a breath. Yeah, I said quietly. I think it already is. That night, I sat on my couch again. Same place, same silence. But something felt different. I wasn't just confused anymore, or hurt, or overwhelmed. I was ready, because now I understood the game. And more importantly, I knew how to break it. But what I didn't know was how far my mom would go to keep control. The plan sounded simple, almost too simple. Get everyone talking, compare stories, expose the truth. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized how fragile it was. Because this only worked if people were willing to listen and trust me. And after everything my mom had already said, that wasn't guaranteed. I started with Nana. Of course I did. If there was anyone who deserved the truth first, it was her. I want to set up a call, I told her the next morning, with everyone, just to clear things up. There was a pause. You mean, your mother too? Eventually, I said, but not at first. I could almost hear her thinking. Carefully, measuring. Who else would be there? Rachel, Aunt Carol. Maybe Dad, if he's willing. Another pause, longer this time. Then she said something that made my chest tighten. I don't want to cause more conflict, Lena. I closed my eyes, because that was exactly the problem. No one wanted conflict. And my mom relied on that, relied on people choosing peace over truth. I know, I said softly. But Nana, this is the conflict. We're already in it. We just don't see all of it yet. Silence. I don't want you doubting me, I added, not because of something she said. Her voice softened. I don't doubt you. But she hesitated. Just enough. And that tiny hesitation, it was all the proof I needed that this couldn't wait. Then help me fix this, I said. A long breath on the other end. And then, okay. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Because Nana was just the first step. Rachel was easy. Yeah, I'm in, she said immediately. Honestly, I've been waiting for this. That made me smile. Just a little, because I needed someone who wasn't afraid. Aunt Carol was, harder. She listened quietly as I explained. Didn't interrupt. Didn't react much. And when I finished, she sighed. Lena, I don't know if this is a good idea. My stomach dropped. Why not? Because this feels confrontational. Of course it did. That was the point. I'm not trying to start a fight, I said carefully. I just want everyone to hear the same information at the same time. But what if this makes things worse? She asked. I hesitated, because that was a real possibility. What if it makes things better? I countered. Silence. Then, I'll think about it. Not a yes. But not a no either. And right now, that was enough. Getting my dad involved was the hardest. Not because he didn't care, but because he avoided things like this at all costs. Can't you just talk to your mom directly? He asked when I brought it up. I tried, I said. It didn't work. A pause. Well, maybe she didn't mean it the way you think. There it was. Doubt. Not harsh. Not accusatory. But there. And it stung. Dad, I said quietly, did something like this happen between you and Nana before? Silence. Long. Heavy. And then, she told you about that? My heart skipped. So it's true. Another pause. Then a sigh. Yeah. I swallowed. Then you know what this is. I know what it was. He corrected. That was a long time ago. And this is happening again, I said. He didn't respond right away. I just don't want to make things worse, he finally said. I closed my eyes. Because that was the theme, wasn't it? Everyone was afraid of making things worse, even if things were already broken. I'm not asking you to fight, I said. I'm asking you to listen. Another long pause. Then, okay. It wasn't enthusiastic. It wasn't confident. But it was something. By the end of the day, I had just enough. Not everyone fully on board. Not everyone convinced. But enough people willing to show up. And that was all I needed. We scheduled the call for Sunday. 3 days away. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of pretending everything was normal. 3 days of acting like I wasn't about to confront the biggest problem in my life. And my mom? She had no idea. At least, not yet. I still talked to her, texted, short calls, surface-level conversations. Like nothing was wrong. And she acted the same way. Warm. Cheerful. Completely unbothered. Like she wasn't orchestrating anything behind the scenes. And that was the hardest part. Because if I didn't know the truth, I would have believed her. Are you coming home for Thanksgiving? She asked casually during one of those calls. I froze for half a second, then forced my voice to stay steady. Yeah, I was planning to. Oh, she said lightly, I thought you might need some space this year. There it was again. Subtle. Planted. Testing. I never said that, I replied, a small pause, then a soft laugh. Well, just making sure. I gripped my phone tighter, because now I could see it happening in real time. The way she introduced ideas, suggested narratives. Let them sit, grow, spread. I'll be there, I said firmly. Good, she replied. That'll make things easier. Easier for who? I almost asked. But I didn't. Because I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was waiting. Sunday came faster than I expected, and slower than I wanted. My stomach was in knots all morning. I couldn't eat, could barely sit still. This was it. The moment everything either fell apart or finally made sense. We started the call without my mom. Just us, me, Nana, Rachel, Aunt Carol, and eventually, my dad. The mood was tense, awkward. No one really knew how to start, so I did. Thank you all for being here, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I know this is uncomfortable. A few murmured agreements. I need us to talk openly, without assumptions, without going through anyone else. Silence. Then Nana spoke. I think that's fair. I nodded, took a breath, and then I did the one thing I had been afraid to do this whole time. I laid everything out. What my mom told Nana, what she told Rachel's mom, what she told Aunt Carol, what she told Aunt Carol. Each version, each difference, each contradiction. I didn't accuse, didn't attack, I just presented it clearly, calmly, fact by fact. At first, no one said anything. They just listened, processing, connecting dots, seeing the pattern. Then Rachel spoke. That's exactly what my mom told me, she said, about Lena needing space. Aunt Carol hesitated. She told me Lena was overwhelmed, that she didn't want to talk much. My dad cleared his throat. She told me you were pulling away. I looked at Nana. She told me you didn't want me in your life anymore. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Because now, everyone could see it. Not just pieces, but the whole picture. I didn't realize, Aunt Carol said slowly. Neither did I, my dad admitted. Rachel shook her head. She changed the story for each of us. I nodded. Yes. And for the first time, I wasn't the only one saying it. Nana spoke again. Quiet, but firm. She's done this before. My dad let out a breath. I know. That hung in the air. Because now it wasn't just suspicion. It was confirmed. So what do we do? Rachel asked. All eyes, metaphorically turned to me, and my heart started pounding. Because this was it. The moment we moved from understanding to action. We bring her in, I said. Silence. Tension. Are you sure? Aunt Carol asked. No, I admitted, but it's the only way this ends, because she needed to hear it. All of it. At once. From everyone. No middle ground. No middle ground. No reinterpretation. No control. My hands were shaking as I looked at my phone. Her contact. Right there. One tap away. I took a deep breath. This is where it gets messy, I said. Rachel let out a quiet laugh. Been messy. She wasn't wrong. Okay, I said, and then I pressed add call. The ringing felt louder this time, heavier, like everything was holding its breath. Once, twice, 3 times, and then she answered. Lena? Her voice was warm, normal, unaware. Hi, Mom, I said, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear myself think. I've got everyone here. A pause. What do you mean? And that's when I knew. This was it. The moment everything changed. There was a pause on the line. Not long, but long enough. Long enough for her to realize something was different. Everyone, she repeated. Her voice was still calm. Still controlled. But there was a slight shift. A crack beneath the surface. Yeah, I said. Nana's here. Rachel. Aunt Carol. Dad. Silence. Thicker this time. And for the first time since all of this started, I could feel it. The loss of control. Subtle. But there. Oh, she said finally. Just that. Oh. Like she was recalibrating, adjusting, trying to figure out which version of herself to bring into the room. "Hi, Denise," Nana said gently. My mom didn't respond right away. Then, "Hi, Margaret." Formal, distant, already different from the warm tone she used with me. And that alone said everything. No one spoke for a moment. The tension was suffocating. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was echoing in my ears. I knew I had to start, or this would fall apart before it even began. "Mom," I said, my voice steady despite everything inside me shaking. "We've all been talking, and there are some things we need to clear up." A pause. Then a soft exhale. "Lena, I really don't think this is necessary." Of course she didn't. "It is," I said, firm, simple. No room to redirect. Another pause, longer this time. And then, "Okay," she said, careful, measured. "I'm listening." I took a breath. This was it. No going back. "You told Nana that I didn't want her in my life anymore." "I never said that," she replied immediately. Too quickly, too smoothly. And this time, no one rushed to defend her. No one filled the silence, because they were all listening. Really listening. "For clarity," I said. "Nana, can you repeat what you were told?" A soft inhale. Then Nana's voice. "She told me you felt I was overstepping, that you needed space, and that you didn't want to have that conversation yourself." Silence. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, because now, it wasn't just me. "That's not what I said," my mom replied. Her tone was calm, but tighter now. "I said Lena had been distant, and I thought it might be best to give her some space." "That's not how it was presented to me," Nana said quietly. A pause. "Well, I can't control how things are interpreted." There it was. Deflection. Subtle. But obvious now. And no one moved past it. "Okay," I said. "Then let's talk about what you told Aunt Carol." Aunt Carol cleared her throat. "You told me Lena was overwhelmed and didn't want to talk much." "That's true," my mom said quickly. "I never said that," I replied. "Well, you act like it sometimes," she countered. And there it was again. The reinterpretation. The reshaping. "Rachel," I said. Rachel didn't hesitate. "You told my mom Lena was setting boundaries and pulling away from the family." A pause. Then, "I said she seemed distant," my mom replied. "That's not the same thing." "But it led to that conclusion," Rachel said. My mom didn't answer. "Dad?" I asked softly. He sighed. "You told me she was pulling away." "I said I was worried about her," my mom corrected. "That's not what I heard," he replied. And his voice, it was different. Not defensive. Not defensive. Just clear. For the first time in my life, he wasn't avoiding it. The silence that followed was heavy, because now the pattern was out in the open. Not just implied. Not just implied. But spoken. By everyone. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," my mom said finally. "Of course. The fallback. The safety net." "It doesn't look like a misunderstanding," I replied. "It looks like different versions of the same story." "That's because people hear things differently," she said. "No," Nana said quietly. "It's because you told us different things." That landed hard, because it came from her. Not me, not someone emotional or dramatic, but Nana, steady, calm, certain. My mom didn't respond right away, and in that silence I felt it, the shift, the moment where the narrative stopped working. "I was trying to help," she said finally, her voice softer now, less controlled. "I didn't want anyone to feel hurt." "But they did," I said. "And you made it worse," Rachel added. "I didn't mean to," my mom insisted. That was new, not denial, not deflection, intent, or at least the claim of it. "Then why not just tell the truth?" I asked. Silence, and this time it stretched. Longer than before. because there wasn't an easy answer. I didn't think it would turn into this, she said finally. And for a second, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remembered the details. The precision. The way each story had been tailored. That wasn't accidental. You've done this before, Nana said gently. My mom's breath caught. Audible. Small. But there? That was different, she said quickly. Was it? Nana asked. Another silence. And this one felt like the truth pressing in from all sides. I just wanted to keep things together, my mom said. There's nothing to hold together if you're the one pulling it apart, I replied. My voice didn't shake this time. It didn't break. It just existed. Clear, steady, true. Steady, true. No one spoke, because there was nothing left to argue, no angle left to twist, no version left to present. I think we all need some time, Aunt Carol said quietly, and for once, no one disagreed. The call ended not long after that. No dramatic exit, no yelling, no resolution, just silence. I sat there for a long time after, phone still in my hand, heart still racing, but something inside me was different. For the first time in weeks, I felt grounded, not confused, not questioning, not second-guessing, just certain. The days that followed were strange, quiet, like the aftermath of a storm. People started reaching out, one by one. Rachel first. That was intense, she said. I laughed softly. Yeah. But you did it, she added. We did it, and I meant that, because it wasn't just me anymore. Aunt Carol called next. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For not seeing it sooner. I swallowed. It's okay. But it still meant something. My dad didn't say much. But when we talked, he listened. Really listened. And that was new. And Nana? She called me every day that week. Not because she doubted me anymore, but because she didn't. Because whatever uncertainty had been planted, it was gone. My mom, though, she went quiet. No calls, no texts, nothing. And for once, I didn't chase it. A week later, she finally reached out. A simple message. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time, because part of me still wanted things to go back to normal. Still wanted her to explain it in a way that made sense. That made it okay. But another part of me, the part that had finally seen clearly, knew better. I called her. Not because I needed closure, but because I needed boundaries. Hi, she said when she answered. Her voice was softer, quieter, different. Hi. A pause. I've been thinking about everything, she said. Me too. I didn't realize how it looked, she added. I didn't respond right away, because I wasn't sure I believed that. Not fully. I'm sorry, she said. And that word, it hung there. Heavy. Unfamiliar. I appreciate that, I replied. But I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. I didn't want to lose you, she said. My chest tightened, because that felt real, but also complicated. You don't keep people by controlling them, I said gently. Silence. Then I know that now. I hope she did. I really did. We didn't fix everything in that call, not even close. But we set something new. A line. Clear. Firm. I need you to stop speaking for me, I said. I will. And if there's ever confusion, we talk directly. No middle person. Okay. And if that doesn't happen? I hesitated. Then finished it. I stepped back. She didn't argue, didn't twist it, just said, I understand. And for the first time, I believed that she did. At least a little. Thanksgiving came a few weeks later, and I went, not because everything was perfect, but because I wanted to see what it felt like now. After everything. It was different. quieter, less forced, more honest. My mom didn't dominate the room the way she used to, didn't control every conversation, didn't insert herself between people. She kept her distance. And I noticed something. So did everyone else. Conversations flowed more naturally. People talked directly, laughed more genuinely. Even the silences felt comfortable. At one point, I caught Nana's eye across the table. She smiled. Warm, certain, and for the first time in a long time, there was no doubt behind it. My mom and I weren't fixed, not completely. Maybe we never would be. But we were, aware. And that changed everything. Because once you see something clearly, you can't unsee it. And more importantly, you don't have to accept it anymore. I learned something through all of this. Something I wish I had understood years ago. Love doesn't mean access. Family doesn't mean control. And silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes the hardest thing you can do is tell the truth, out loud, in front of everyone, even when it shakes everything. But sometimes that's the only way to rebuild something real. So yeah, that's my story. And I still think about that moment sometimes. The call, the silence, the shift. Because it changed everything. Not just how I saw my mom, but how I saw myself. And I'll leave you with this. What would you have done in my situation?